everyone. I know coffee has become a very important part of my routine during quarantine because my sleep schedule is a complete mess, having no real schedule. So today we are going to paint a watercolor picture that gives coffee some love, or tea. You can imagine whatever you want is in the mug. But we're going to paint a cute little mug with a galaxy exploding out of it. So kind of a fun little surreal kitchen picture. I mean, you can really take this in any direction you want, use your favorite colors, it's completely up to you. So the first thing we're going to do is create a wash, and I'm using a medium-sized round brush to trace a cup shape. I already had a slight outline done in pencil first, so this might be something you want to sketch out too, just to get your composition down before you start painting. But I'm just going around this cup shape that I have drawn, and then I also have some smoky waves coming out the top of the cup, kind of like you would steam from a cup of coffee, only we're going to turn it into a galaxy. So I'm using two colors, a blue and a gray, and I'm applying them with a lot of water, so it's a really wet wash so that you can see the colors are bleeding and mixing together and going on kind of uneven to make a really cool texture in the background. And so you want to just use the tip of your round brush to lightly trace around your shape. And by kind of putting it at a little bit of an angle and touching down really lightly, just using that tip, you'll be able to trace around your outline boundaries pretty easily and not go outside the area you want. If you do go outside the lines a little bit, it's no big deal, because as we keep painting, we can cover it over. And now I'm just filling in the little spaces in between the waves of our steam/galaxy coming out the top of the mug. And you see I just have a nice rounded cup shape, just a cylinder that goes in a little bit narrower on the bottom and rounds out. So just a basic cup shape. So next what we're going to do is add a little bit of dimension to our mug. So I'm taking a smaller flat brush and just taking some gray and tracing a little inner line down the left side. And then I'm going along that line I just made with plain water. So I'm rinsing off my brush and then going along that with just water to help blend it out so that we have a nice transition from the gray to the white. And I'm just kind of spreading some of that really light gray we're making by causing our paint to bleed, go through the middle of the cup a little bit and also along the upper edge. And the next what we're going to do is add a handle. So I'm taking some of that same gray with a small detail brush and just adding a little bit of water so it's still pretty dark. I'm just outlining along the inner edge of that handle, and then I'm going ahead and rinsing off my brush and adding some water and just brushing along that edge with water and filling that inner space in with the gray. So you'll see it starts out dark where we first applied the color and then gets lighter and lighter where we added water. And that's just going to provide a shadow for underneath the handle where it would be blocking the light from going onto the mug. And this is just going to really make it pop off the page and look a little more three-dimensional. Then I'm lightly outlining along the outside edge of that handle as well. And same thing, then I'm just blending it out with some water so that we're creating a really subtle shadow on the white mug. And I'm just adding a little bit of shadow on the inside of that handle also to imply the roundness. From here we're going to begin our galaxy, and we're going to make the base of our galaxy just by adding some blotchy cloud-like areas in different colors. We're going to use mostly the Payne's gray is what I'm using. You can use a black watercolor as well, whatever you have. And so I'm going and I'm adding a little bit of water to my paint, but not a ton because I still want it to be really bold. And using circular motions, I'm just filling in areas in mostly this dark gray, leaving a little bit of space to add some bright colors. And you can look up pictures of space online to get some inspiration. And you'll see that they're kind of these bursting cloud-like forms of mostly black, but then areas of bright, colorful light as well. You can find some really cool examples to get you inspired. And so while the paint's still wet, I'm going in between my two dark gray areas I made with some bright blue and just adding a little bit of that color mixed in. And it's going to have a sky-like atmosphere by both using the circular motions with our round brush and by the fact that we're doing wet-on-wet shading. So we're working with all our watercolors still wet instead of letting them dry in between so they all bleed together. So right now I'm adding some magenta and the dark is really bleeding into it, turning it into a deeper purple. And we're really not worrying about how our colors bleed. We're just letting them do their thing and let them bleed and blend together. And if you want your watercolors darker, you can always keep layering. So you can always darken things up. A lot of people think watercolors have to be pastel, but they really don't. So once you get this layer of color down, if you want to darken it up and have it be really deep and bold, then what you would do is just let this layer dry. And then once it dries, you can go ahead and add another layer of paint over the same way, the same colors, and having that extra layer of color will continue to darken everything up. So now I'm just adding some more of the magenta on this other side and then going in and filling in on both sides of this magenta burst of color with the dark gray again. And I'm making sure as I fill in that some areas I add a little more water and some less. So in the middle there I add a lot more water to my dark gray, but now over here I haven't added quite as much so that we get the variation of light and dark. And this will give it a really luminous look when we're done and give it that magical kind of calming galaxy look. And I'm still continuing to tilt my brush kind of to the side at a little bit of a diagonal as I do my circular motions. And this just ensures that it fills in a little bit faster. We don't really need to use the very tip of our brush when we're filling in larger areas. So as you can see, I've layered a little bit more color over some areas to darken it up, and now the last thing is to add the stars, our finishing touch. So I've taken some white acrylic and I'm dipping the wrong end of my paintbrush, where there isn't a brush, just the wooden end, in the white paint, and I'm going ahead and tapping really quick, just up and down in short little taps to stamp these star shapes on here. And just naturally you're going to get a variety of size and shapes as you tap, depending how you're angling the end of the brush, depending how much paint is left on it. Every so often I'm reloading the paint. And using acrylic with watercolor can be a really good idea, especially for things like this. With watercolor, since they're transparent, it's hard to get bright white over top of a dark background, which is why we're changing it up and using the acrylics so that you can get that bold white of the glowing stars really popping out from our background. And this technique that you're practicing with creating the sky is so helpful for a variety of watercolor pictures. If you want to do space scenes, if you just want to make a cool background for a person or object you're working with in watercolor, if you want to do a night landscape, this technique will really come in handy. Now I'm just taking my flat brush and adding a little bit of magenta to delineate a surface that the cup is sitting on, but still leaving it mostly abstract. I hope you try this project at home. It's really fun, easy, and expressive. Thank you.